UConn, South Carolina, back on in 2026, but always on in the social media world. You're on the Hoops Cap.
Let's get it. 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 Yeah. UConn, baby. Home of the champions. Let's go.
Welcome into the Hoops Cap Pod. I'm your host, Mark Zanetto. With me, as always, on Friday is T. Baker. T of the Next and also Built to Ball here on the Big East Energy Network. Go check his show out. It's all on the women's game in the Big East. So let's get right into it, man. Like I think for me, what's always interesting is like the cold open says, South Carolina and UConn are back and to play a neutral site home and home. Once at Mohegan, once in Charlotte in the Spectrum Center. One for you, one for me, apparently. And I think that, but it never turns off on social media between maybe Dawn and fans and basically UConn fans in South Carolina. What's your take on all this? The basketball side and the silly side.
Well, first, I love that the series is back on. There's a, sort of a gap in the schedule this year for me, that the fact that they're not playing. So just love that they did it. It's kind of it's a neutral site, but it's sort of a proxy home game for both, I guess, in some ways, because one's in the Carolinas, one's in Connecticut. So I like the way they structured that. And I mean, I think that the Twitter banter, the social media banter is good for the game. It's something we didn't have in the Pat Summitt Tennessee days, which would have been interesting to see how that would have played out. I can't picture someone like Pat Summitt like being active on Twitter, because Twitter didn't exist really. But it's interesting to see.
What do you think Pat Summitt's? Do you think Pat Summitt's Twitter handle would be her full name, or do you think it would be at Coach Pat Summitt? I think that'd be an interesting question.
I don't know. At Coach Pat Summitt, she would keep it formal. She'd keep it classy. She was,
absolutely.
I think that Dawn has always kind of been one to use her online presence to make a point, to attract recruits. So she listens to the noise. She hears it. I think that's maybe the difference between her and Geno, is Geno's not on the internet like that. So you're not going to see him responding to any social media rumors. I don't know if anyone ever even asked him about the Statue Gate situation. But certainly he only hears about it through his players or his family or whatever is my take.
Yeah. He's basically your uncle or your grandfather that's only on Facebook and maybe got bullied into Instagram. So like, hey, you could see pictures of your grandkids. And like, he was just like, oh, great. And now he's got like 70,000 followers and doesn't post anything ever. So yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I also feel like we talked about this pre-show, like some advice from someone that absolutely is way too active on social media and probably shouldn't respond to half the things I say. We talk about this all the time, you and I, about like how I see comments. And if I'm going to say something, I'll typically screenshot it to T and send it to him and say, hey, listen, I wanted to yell at this person, but I just wanted to show you what's going on. Dawn needs that person in her life. She needs a T Baker to be like, what are you doing? Don't do that. Like, just take a step back. No one thinks you're ducking UConn. It's just something fans say. Just let it go. Let it go. That's my only advice.
I mean, I think with Dawn, it's like one of those things where it's like, I feel like social media has sort of evolved or devolved over time, however you want to look at it, where Dawn was one of the first coaches I can remember in women's basketball who really used like social media as a recruitment tool, as a way to engage fans. Like, she built her program on that type of accessibility. So I think there was that pro to it, at that time. And now there are times where I think, she doesn't have to be part of the conversation. Dawn Staley has nothing to prove to any of us, like she doesn't have to respond to internet abuse or rumors, but I think that the piece about it that just fascinates me is that it all kind of gets translated through the media. Like, people ask her, she responds, that gets on social media, creates another loop. So I love it. I think it's exciting. It's fun. She said it's important. She said it's important that they play. And I think she's right. I think she knows the stakes. I didn't think she was ducking this year. I think it was a fun story to say, oh, why aren't they playing? And she cited, the fact that UConn has 2 additional conference games this year as a scheduling barrier. And you'll notice those games are going to be in November. So there's going to be one, I think it's a Thanksgiving tournament, whatever. And then The Hall of Fame Classic's always in November. So I think that it'll be an interesting early season test for both teams over the next 2 seasons to kind of see as a measuring stick of, what type of talent they have that season.
I wonder if someone's going to ask Sarah Strong a couple years from now in Charlotte if she's going to a bunch of games in Spectrum Center, and she'll be like, no.
Yeah. One word answer.
It'll just come back to when she's told that guy agrees, but I'll never forget that. I tried so hard not to laugh out loud. It took everything in me. So let's talk about this rivalry for a second. UConn basically, to use a parlance of our time, put belt to ass in the last 2 games. They played both by a combined 30 points in each, 29 and then 32 in the title game. Do you think the implications of losing the Sarah Strong sweepstakes change the kind of the course of history, if you will, in terms of now UConn is in power and South Carolina is doing the chasing?
100%. I think that's the difference maker. Like, if Sarah Strong's not in that UConn game last year against South Carolina, they don't win it as certainly as dominantly. It's definitely a closer game. And if she's on the other side, like, that gives South Carolina that major advantage, right? So I think that had Sarah Strong selected South Carolina, we'd be having a very different conversation right now about who's the most dominant team in women's basketball, frankly. And it's not taking anything away from UConn and their legacy and their coaching staff, but Sarah Strong's one of those those talent pieces that doesn't come around often. It makes me think about, when Aaliyah Boston in 2018, whatever, committed to South Carolina, and that switched the power to South Carolina for a bit. And that was a recruit that everyone thought UConn should have gotten, right? She was playing at Worcester Academy, 90 minutes from UConn heavily recruited her, but she chose South Carolina, and they ended up in 4 Final Fours with 2 national championships, right? If she was not with South Carolina, was instead with UConn maybe won 1 or 2 of those instead, So, like, these are the types of decisions when recruits of that caliber make these types of decisions, it changes the trajectory of a program. Geno Auriemma said that last year at Media Day. He said, at a certain point in our recruitment, going after Sarah Strong was something we knew we had to do, and that would significantly change the trajectory of our program, which we all kind of scoffed at the time, because the trajectory of the program was Final Four every year with Paige Beckers and AZ Fudd.
Right.
But he was right, as usual. He was right. Like, she's just unstoppable.
She's different.
She's different. She's unlike players we've seen too many times in the women's game. They were calling her baby Jokic. I think Geno said when he saw her play in 10th grade, he was reminded of Charles Barkley. Like, that, the talent she has as a guard combined with her physicality and her finesse in the post is just dominant. Like, watching her in the first game of the season last, Monday, Tuesday, when they faced off against Louisville, like, best player on the court, no question.
Yeah. 1,000%. This is also a good segue to, as you guys know, you can see the little Big Energy Media and the Boys and Girls Club of Connecticut. We've partnered with them, and so there are certain things that we're doing where all of the proceeds go to the Connecticut Alliance of Boys and Girls Club. This shirt right here is going to that. It's Too Strong, and it's inspired by 2 things. One, Sarah Strong and this UConn team. It's kind of like a double entendre. Too strong. Is she too strong? Probably. Is this team too strong? Likely. If you're interested in it, I'm going to put the BigEastEnergy.com at products/too strong. Go check out BigEastEnergy.com and you'll see this shirt. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about partnering with the Connecticut Alliance of Boys and Girls Club. Remember, all of the Connecticut merchandise that we sell on this site goes directly to the Connecticut Alliance of Boys and Girls Club. I'm going to leave that up for a second here. Yeah, I think it's an interesting one, because if we take it to the Louisville game, Geno said in the post game that losing Paige Beckers is like losing 3 players with the production, the leadership, and everything that comes with it. In your eyes, how did they do in the first real game without her?
I mean, I think they showed that they have a really high ceiling. You don't replace a player like Paige Beckers. You just find a different identity, because once your identity is built upon a player like that, who, and the point about, losing 3 players is a nod to her talent, but also to the things she did on the court. Like, there were some games where Paige was blocking shots, rebounding. Like, she does all those pieces that do make her the type of player that, creates the type of gap that Geno was talking about. But this year's team is just a different team. You can't replace and try to create what you had. You have to instead create a new system. And I think that the key change that I'm observing is just the post presence of Sarah Williams. Like that changes the dynamic of this team. It makes them very difficult to beat. It shows that they have, the recruiting chops also to get the top transfer talents. Like, there's this level of relentlessness that they play with because of their depth. And they interviewed Paige during the game, Holly Rowe, one of the hardest working,
one of the best.
Is
Absolutely the best.
Got Holly Rowe, who, by the way, you saw her get like hit on the sideline of a football game, get right back up. Yeah. Like,
keep telling your story, but I have a great Holly Rowe story to tell you. Go ahead, keep going.
So anyway, Holly Rowe found Paige in the stands, of course, so, watching UConn, and she mentioned like that the depth, Paige said this, the depth of this year's team allows them to just run teams into the ground. And that's not a luxury they had during Paige's era. Maybe last year they did a bit, but still it was pretty tight rotations. Like, when you have the level of talent in a starting lineup, and then you're able to check in players like Kaylee Heckel, like Blanca Quinones, like, Caroline Ducharme, the other wings that you have that could have a good game any night. Like, there's really not much you can do to stop it as an opposing team. So I think that Paige's absence means that, it's now fully the Sarah Strong show. But the pieces she has around her is a dangerous team.
Yeah, no. It'll be interesting to see how that goes, because, Blanca didn't play, and neither did Gandy in the first game. But very quick segue. If you have a chance, I think Holly Rowe did an interview series, and she was talking about how she got her start and how she got her full-time gig at ESPN. Incredible story. Go check that out. It's basically how she basically just hustled her way into it. And then once they found out that she was as good as she is, they hired her. She would just find out where producers were doing like B football games, and, San Diego State, San Jose State, they don't have a sideline reporter. She would call the producer and say, "Hey, I'm actually in San Diego, San Jose this weekend. Weird. I just see you don't have a reporter." And he would be like, "Really? Do you want to work the game?" "Yes." And then she'd be like, "Now I got to figure out how to get to San Jose State." So like, she would just do that. And then a New York producer saw her and they hired her full time. So just a testament to like sticking to what you love to do. And, it all kind of works out. But back to the game. What's striking to me is Kaylee Heckel. Kaylee Heckel is essentially almost, the transfer of the forgotten recruit. Because listen, Sarah Williams is going to be a dynamite ad. She had 8 rebounds, 6 offensive rebounds. I think her addition, is obviously, as you mentioned, is going to be really beneficial to Sarah and others. And as always, AZ Fudd played well. But I just thought the defense that Kaylee plays, her ability to actually shoot the rock a little bit, drive to the hoop, she gives them the athleticism to a small degree that they lost when they lost Paige Beckers. And because she's kind of that very fluid athlete that Paige was, albeit another level up.
Yeah, I think with Kaylee, it's like, I've seen, of course, social media chatter of like, oh, she went to UConn to start, and now she's coming off the bench. First of all, no one goes to UConn to start.
Who cares, right? She played 23 minutes.
Yeah, but also no one goes to UConn to start. Like, you have to earn your time at a program like that. Also, it's where she fits in coming off the bench. I think Geno and his staff, when after one of the exhibition games, say they start their players with the most experience. So
sure,
Kaylee Heckel is still a sophomore. She's only had 1 year of basketball. She doesn't play like one, but I think whether or not she ever starts this season, like, I don't think it matters. Like, KK Arnold didn't start last season, right? But still was a key piece, and still plays a strategic role of being that sixth woman, piece that comes in with high energy and can change a game. So I think with Kaylee Heckel, it's going to continue to be really productive minutes, but also it's setting the foundation for who she can be by the time she leaves UConn. Unlike Sarah Williams, Kaylee's got this year and 2 more years after that of eligibility. So she is going to be a key piece, and I think they want to develop her as such.
Tell me about the way the team looked like from a visual perspective, because as we talked pre-show, I listened to Bob Joyce on the call. I appreciate him because I don't have ESPN at the moment. So, like KK Arnold, how did she look? I mean, I felt like there were times where, you know, I think Bob made a really great point at the beginning about she hit a three early, and it was like if she can be a person that hits open shots, they're going to be incredibly difficult to stop.
Yeah, well, I noticed there was a couple, you know, she took more threes than we're accustomed to her seeing. I think one thing that I noticed on the broadcast is that her foot was actually on the line for a couple of them. So they got to teach her to take that extra inch step back, get that extra point. But, you know, I think that's a different part of her game that we haven't seen. I think the one thing is that this is her team to run now, you know, not like as the point guard, she's running the offense. So, you know, in some cases it's also Sarah, it's also AZ. That's what you get when you have like that level of talent, but she is the starting point guard. So the energy that she brings.
With the power of podcasting, we're back. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Was talking about KK Arnold and her impact on the game. Continue. I'm sure that got cut off somewhere.
Yeah, I think with KK, it's like, you know, the type of energy that she brings as the starting point guard sets the tone for the team. And you know, in that same Holly interview, Paige said something like, "This is her team now." You know, like there is still that power that the starting point guard has. You know, you are the start of the offense, the point of attack. Like I think that with players like Sarah and AZ who can also bring the ball up the court, like there's less pressure on you perhaps to carry all of that. But it starts with KK, and I think she showed that she's ready to step into that role. And like we mentioned, taking that long shot, that 3-pointer as part of her game is going to be important for UConn. I think, and certainly in losing Paige, who contributed a lot of 3-pointers. And just, you know, continuing to maintain that efficiency. I'd say one thing about the game was 3-point shooting wasn't super efficient. More like, I think, you know, noticeably less made than we're used to, maybe with a Paige Becker's team. But, you know, that's also part of figuring out the identity. I think a lot more might go through the post and you know, the high-low action between Sarah Strong and Sarah Williams. And, you know, we'll see how that piece plays out. But still a lot of 3-point weapons. AZ Fudd, probably one of the biggest 3-point weapons in the country. Ashlyn Shade. So like, it's not like that's going to be a lacking piece, but noticeably less efficient than in years past.
Okay. So we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games before Thanksgiving. They're all pretty interesting. Utah on the 23rd, Hall of Fame Women's Showcase, Michigan in that same Hall of Fame Women's Showcase, Ohio State at home in the vault, as people are calling it, People's Bank Arena. Then you have a couple home games in stores against Florida State and Loyola. The next game against Florida State. Of those games, which are the games that you think are the most challenging, and maybe B are the most significant of that stretch?
I think that, you know, for me, there's the piece about getting ready for the NCAA tournament with your resume, certainly in a season where there are going to be less non-conference games to prove that later in the season. I think this is the opportunity to show that you can compete against Big Ten teams. To be honest, I can't even remember. Is Utah in the
Utah's in the Big 12.
Yeah, which makes no damn sense. But somehow they're in the Big 12. But, you know, Michigan being in the Big 10, and Ohio State being in the Big 10, like those are two teams from a conference that could likely have up to 10 teams in the NCAA tournament, right? So not only are you beating teams or competing against teams early in the season who are in a competitive conference, but you have teams that could really rise to the occasion later in the season, and those wins mean more. You know, I think it's always tough. You know, I wish that there was more opportunity for non-conference games later in the season, because I think that's a better litmus test. November, you're still figuring out a lot of pieces. Both teams are. So you're not going to get the best Michigan team. You're not going to get the best Utah team. You're not going to get the best UConn team. So I think that measuring stick looks a little different in November and December than it does in, you know, January, February, but still important matchups and still early season tests to kind of get a sense of what your weaknesses are and what you need to work on.
With no last thing on schedule, and then we'll get you out of here. With no South Carolina game this year. Which of the games non-conference or conference are you looking forward to that it's circled on your calendar for T. Baker in the 25-26 season?
For me, it's Tennessee. It's the Lady Vols. Like, they lost their opener in a close matchup against NC State, but like Kim Caldwell's got talent. She has a team that just runs and runs and runs. Like, she does the 5-out, replacement full substitutions. And I think a team that has that level of depth, the ability to kind of rotate players in and out, creates a matchup to UConn's depth and speed and ability to run the floor. So I think UConn is a team that benefits, running in transition, keeping the game fast, but so does Tennessee. So the dynamic of also just it being UConn Tennessee and the emergence of a rivalry and a team that a program that, historically had so much, prominence in the women's game, and now to see them kind of emerge in this new form, I think it's really cool. And I'm just excited to see them play in Connecticut.
It's interesting you mentioned Tennessee in that system. I found the men's side of that version. It's at the low to mid-major level. It's a program called IU Indy, and it's exactly where you think it is. It's in Indianapolis, and all they do is run, and that dude substitutes, came from Division II as well, substitutes at a high rate. It's 5 in, 5 out. He doesn't do it quite as much as a Tennessee women's coach, but it's just a really fun brand of basketball. I watched them play last night. I was watching a bunch of basketball, and it's just fun. They ended up losing, but they scored 92 points.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not for everyone. Like, you have to be in really good shape. So I think that's the piece that in an early season matchup, like, these players are still getting in shape. So, but like, there is just so much potential for that team and for the program that Kim Caldwell's building. I just have an incredible amount of respect for her confidence. She's a young coach, and also, comes from the mid-major level where she ran this offense. And this is her showing that it can be effective in the Power 5 space, and especially in a place like the SEC. So I'm excited to see that matchup. I'm always excited for a Notre Dame matchup. You know me, I'm here for the history and the sort of like historical rivalries. But I think Tennessee this year to me has a higher ceiling than Notre Dame does. So I'm just excited to see that matchup.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I also am interested in the December 20th game, neutral site, Women's Champions Classic, Iowa. I'm gonna totally give Iowa fans a shot here. Why are you in the Champions Classic if you've never been a champion?
Well,
sorry, had to do it.
You're not conference champions here. I see you.
Nope, not counting that. Counting championships. I'm counting that. It's a Champions Classic. It's not a conference champions. No. You got to win it. Yeah. Listen, on the men's side, we do the exact same thing when they do the Champions Classic, and it's like Michigan State, Duke, and Kansas, and they're like, why isn't UConn playing? Yeah, it's just like, hello. More so on the women's side, like, you got to give me not even UCLA, give me USC. They've had a championship history. Give me Tennessee. Give me somebody else. But sorry, Iowa, you got to win one to be in a Champions Classic. I can't wait to see the comments on this one.
I do agree with you on that. I mean, I think Iowa women's basketball, one of the prominent programs in women's basketball history. Of course, C. Vivian Stringer brought them to the Final Four, but they never won it. Why are they in the Champions Classic? I'm with you on that.
I mean, listen, we're just being honest. Like, I'm not trying to tweak you guys, but
we're just being technical here. We're technical,
literal Larry.
Yeah, in technical T.
All right,
I'm here.
Technical T. All right. He's T. Baker. I'm Mark Zanetto. We'll see you guys next time on the Hoops Cap. We really appreciate you. Go Huskies. We'll see you next time.
Let's get it. Yeah. UConn, baby.